So those are some of the mutual funds that you could look at adding into your portfolio. But now let's look at the home loan space. That's the space that we are seeing a lot of wars hotting up between the banks. Lower and lower rates of interest. You look at SBI, HDFC, Kotak Mahindra, DCB, Bank of Rajasthan, all of them in the race to offer cheaper and cheaper rates of interest as far as home loans are concerned. What does it mean for consumers like you and me? Harsh Rungta is here to tell us. He's CEO of ApnaPaisa.com. Thanks very much for joining us, Harsh. Now, they say there's always a give and take. Banks are offering lower rates of interest, but should one actually be part of that herd mentality, because lots of people are queuing up for these home loans?
So I think it's a good time to be a home loan consumer. What you're seeing today, I think is from the industry side, it's a side product of the liquidity that is there, and the structuring, which is that you've got fixed rates and low fixed rates for the first 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, in some cases 5 years, is really a cushion that the banks are providing to the consumers, the home loan consumers, because rates are widely expected to go up.
Right.
In next year and the year after that possibly.
That's right. All across the markets you're hearing of hardening of interest rates, and here we're looking at banks offering lower rates of interest. So sometimes you become a little skeptical. It's
a phenomenon of the fact that even though interest rates are widely expected to go up, right now we have a lot of liquidity. The demand or credit demand is still not really picked up, and therefore secured loans like home loans, the lenders have a lot of appetite to do them. And consumers are demanding some safety.
Yeah, but with so many of these players offering cheaper rates of interest, there's very little to differentiate one from the other. So how does one go about choosing one bank?
Well, I think rates cannot be your sole parameter to choose your lender. So if I was to lay down an hierarchy of how I would go about choosing a lender, first I think is your property. Never select a lender till you have finalized your property.
Right.
The kind of properties that might create difficulty could be if you're buying very old property, 25 years plus. If you're buying a property that's been through 3-4 hands and you are the 4th or the 5th purchaser, or third, if you're buying property which is in the very initial stages of construction.
So how exactly should one consider fitting into the eligibility criteria? There are certain things that are an absolute must. So if you can go over those.
There are banks who specialize, for example, in dealing with eligibility issues arising out of, say, self-employed people. A good example is Kotak. I mean, they really specialize in giving good loan eligibility to self-employed people.
Right.
If you are a salaried person with say 3, 4, 5 years of experience working for a reasonably good employer, and loan eligibility based on your salary is not an issue, and you are buying property that is approved, in which case obviously the only thing then you really need to see is rates. And rates, as I said, are two parts, right? One is this low fixed rate. Now that I think it's clear to everyone that it is available only for 2 years or 3 years or maybe 5 years, and in some cases just 1 year. And I think the second big criteria for choosing, which is a little more difficult and not so easy to find, is that what will be the floating rate. No, so the formula is there. Okay, so you can find if the formula is based on a certain reference rate and you take the reference rate of today, the formula says that after 3 years the rate will be so much.
Right.
But that's assuming the reference rate stays where it is.
Correct.
So there, sites like ApnaPaisa, for example, will tell you what is your weighted average cost,
right,
assuming the floating rate remains the same.
Okay.
Right. So that information is available.
Right.
Right. But it's not completely reliable.
You will say that yes, for 2 or 3 years, as long as this rate remains fixed, I want to stay with this bank, but I have the option of moving.
Absolutely. So I think if consumers are can get out of their inertia, okay, then they can move.
What about cost of taking a loan, Harsh? Because that's something that you must consider as well.
Essentially, processing fees and things like that have become, especially if you're taking a largish loan, anything above 25-30 lakhs, that really would add up to a few thousands here and there. I think two charges you should really consider. One, I think some banks charge and some don't.
Right.
Is a stamp duty on creation of mortgage. The other is prepayment charge. Now typically even on prepayment charge the differences have really almost disappeared.
In fact, many people who were in the loan market for some time just in the recent past, they may feel like they've missed the bus because now they're seeing these attractive rates of interest. Is there anything for them now that they're looking at these home loan rates?
This is actually a travesty of how it works in India, that no matter what the ownership of the bank, whether it is a public sector bank or a private sector bank, all these candy floss deals that are available for new consumers unfortunately are not available to their own existing consumers.
So you have to stop being lazy and you need to be proactive and make sure that you're getting the best that's out there in the market.
And it can be fairly substantial.
Harsh Rungta, CEO of ApnaPaisa.com, thanks very much for joining us on the show and sharing those insights. And if you have questions on any of this, don't forget our email ID. It's smartmoney@bloombergutv.com. You can also SMS us. The number for that is 59995. A small break. And as we do, here's a website that you should be looking at. And when we return, we'll look at the news of the week in the personal finance space. We'll devise a game plan for you as well. Stay tuned.
If you want to know the best place to find out the lowdown on the home loan space, you have to check out www.ApnaPaisa.com. The website provides the details of all the loans available in the market, compares loans and helps you figure out the best home loan for you as well.